Hello, and to the second town hall meeting for EduinLoc, the European edition. We launched this I'm Ulrich Hennes, one of the founders and organizers of LocWorld, and this is a LocWorld initiative. I am part of the steering committee of EduinLoc, and we've been delighted how much interest there is in improving education in localization. We are gathering today to get more input from the localization community. And to hear more about that, I am going to turn over the proceedings to Jan Grodecki, who will give information. Jan?
Thank you very much, Ulrich. Good afternoon and good morning. So good afternoon. Today our focus is on the folks in Europe. So hopefully the time works fine for you. Let me quickly go through today's agenda. First, very briefly, an introduction to EduinLoc and an update what we have done since our last town hall meeting. Then I have the pleasure to present you Alina Secară and Esther Curiel in a discussion about education and between academics and the industry. Alina is representing the University of Vienna, and Esther is a Localization Operations Manager at Indeed. So hopefully we have a lively discussion between those two, and we reserve 5 to 10 minutes, probably 10 minutes, for questions from the audience. If you have questions, please post these in Remo in the Q&A section, preferably over chat, so we can focus on one area there. And at 8:35, and Ulrich made it very clear we have to be on time there. He will give me a notification when time's up. We want to really stick to the agenda. From 8:35 to 9:30, we will all meet at round tables. We will have general tables. So whoever wants to meet who, please feel free. If you feel strong about a topic, stay on one table, people can join you. And we have 2 dedicated tables. One is led by me. I will have the center table on the 2nd floor. So in Remo, you just click on floor number 2, go to the center table. That's the big one where 8 people can sit. And on, this is wrong, it's supposed to be on the 1st floor where Katka Gashova is hosting the quality table. One thing I would really like you to do is focus on all the tables on the education part and the goal that we have here in fostering the communication between academics and the industry, and not deviate too much into topics that are not really related to education. What else? Again, EduinLoc, this is our core team. We are the founders, Ulrich, Peng, Belaine, and Jan. Unfortunately, Belaine can't join us today. She has another more exciting event, but these are the 4 people we started this initiative. And for everybody who is new to this, maybe the first time joining us here, the objectives of our initiative is really to foster the communication between academics and the localization industry. We want to assist educators, professors, universities, keeping their syllabus relevant, assist in the industry with talent, development and hiring the right people, and also promote research in the localization industry. So it's really a collaboration between these 2 communities. You can read all this on our webpage, which is currently edwinloc.locworld.com. We're hosted by LocWorld. At some point, we will probably have our own webpage, but that's a little bit of the future. And as another update, we hired an advisory board. We had contacted representatives from industry and from the academics. And our next meeting in about 2 weeks, we will join our advisory board and introduce everybody and then start working with them. And we will announce the members of the advisory board right after that meeting on our webpage and possibly in a newsletter. Again, the roundtable discussion, quality management on floor number 1, center table, technology on floor number 2. We have a maximum of 8 attendees. Otherwise, please feel free to jump around. Consider Remo like a real event, like LocWorld, for example, and consider these roundtables like in a big room. You could just go to whatever table is interesting. And focus on education. And then Ulrich hired a couple of people from LocWorld who will take notes and join us on these tables. If you have an important point or anything that sticks, please take a note on that independently if there's a note taker or not, and email those to us. We will also send out a very quick short survey, I promise that, after the meeting, so we can capture this information if there's anything you want us to follow up with. So I would say that's it. I hope it didn't miss anything. And we should go into the conversation between Alina and Esther. And just briefly, this is the roundtables after the discussion, so you really just click on 1 or 2 on the floors, and then you can double click on the table that you want to join. So I would say I stop my slide deck here. And Alina, Esther, are you ready? Esther, I think you're still muted.
Ready, Jan, thanks.
Okay, perfect. Please start the conversation. Alina, I think you already have a question to start off with.
Hello. Thank you, Jan. I would just like to start by thanking the EduinLoc team for bringing us together. I think it's wonderful to have more conversations. There already are conversations happening on other platforms as well, but I think it's really great to have another opportunity to bring the academia and the industry, and also to focus on education and to see how we can help each other make the industry and the education more relevant and more interesting and exciting as well. So as you probably know, for us academics, everything starts with the curriculum. And my first question to Esther is, what are your thoughts about the contents of a localization and translation program? What are the ingredients? If we were to think like cooks in a kitchen, what are the ingredients that we should, and maybe the secret recipe as well, that we should have in there to to make this relevant and interesting and exciting as well?
Yeah, I must start by saying that I don't have an academic background in localization, linguistics, or anything related. My background is in the social sciences, so I haven't really, I learned the ropes just totally within the industry, but not. I wouldn't have first-hand knowledge of the curriculum. So my observations are really more based on experience and what I see might be missing, or what I feel might be outdated, more so than anything else, which perhaps points to the fact that maybe we need to discuss more this kind of thing within the industry. So great initiative. But yeah, what I see is, to a great extent, I mean, I feel the industry is evolving very quickly. It's also integrating a lot more. I suppose the businesses we work with the development cycles are going agile, marketing departments are going agile, everyone is going agile around us. And everyone is getting a lot of automation that wasn't there when I started in the industry 20 years ago. So I can see how the content has changed, and how file management used to be a big thing, and now perhaps it isn't so much. It's about integrations and so on. And that technical part of being able to use the automation properly and understand it and understand the technology landscape, I think that's missing with people who come out of university. And this might be a generalization. Some people come better prepared. I suspect those are the ones who go on, to do masters and so on. So that would be one area that I would think perhaps needs a little bit more attention. The other question I would have for you, Alina, is are these plans still just looking at preparing people to become linguists, or are we looking at the huge array of roles that we have now within the localization industry?
Yeah, great question. I think at the beginning, when we have students coming to do BA, but even to do MA programs, they think that they're going to be translators, and a few have maybe heard about the subtitling industry or the dubbing industry, but they very much think about linguistic roles, or translators in essence. And then when we start telling them, oh, have you thought about maybe quality management or translation project management, or have you thought about maybe being adapters of content? Things start to get a little bit more exciting for them, and I think it's also fair to say that the localization and translation programs have changed, and have changed a lot, and in trying to integrate all of these new things. But we also we need to tell them about the roles that are available, and in a way to provide them tasters of what might a quality manager might do on a daily basis, or and I think this is one area where getting people like you, but other like the participants that we have today, to come into the programs, and to talk to the students and to tell them, hey, have you ever thought that you could be doing X, Y, and Z, and get them excited about that. So what kind of roles are you thinking of that maybe a typical translation graduate might not know about?
Localization engineering would be one that I think is very sought out at the moment, in terms of overall, just kind of advanced CAD usage is really a big plus for linguists as well. Like when I'm hiring people, that's one of the things I would be looking out for. There's a lot of people that come out with good user knowledge. Streamline processes internally, and automate quality checks, or integrate better. That's still there's very few people with those skills, even amongst seasoned professionals. So that's one. I think we've discussed as well elements of UX, right? And I think can be interesting as well. Like there's a lot of talk about MD, and that's an area certainly that I know in academia you're looking at quite heavily, which is fantastic. But then there's a ton of more creative content that doesn't get resolved as easily by machine translation, or even by translation as it's done. And there's I suppose this is also linked to how business is changing, and how where personalization is becoming more and more important for companies, and many of them are including it amongst their values. We're customer centric now. We're not product centric anymore. It's all about customer centricity. I still feel that very often, perhaps we're still anchored in the old days of we need to be faithful to the source, and that I think we need to start thinking in a different light, that really it's about the user experience, and if I'm giving the user a very good experience in their language, like still being, obviously conveying the message, but it's about, am I making it easy for the user to understand what I'm saying, and to just achieve whatever it is that they set out to do. That element is very important as well. And I think the industry itself is still trying to figure out what do we do with this. So hard to say for academia to incorporate it when we still haven't figured out what we need ourselves. But certainly a conversation, to start having together, because that's a big area as well for all the people who might not want, might not be interested in post-editing and so on. This is another big area of opportunity for them, and where we're still not providing our users what they need at the level of quality they need. The quality table with Katka will be very interesting to join, I think, because I often feel as well that even the quality management processes that we use sometimes interfere actually with these results. You know, like just to give you an example, in my experience, I've seen a lot of pretty good transcreations that then get their impact gets broken at the QA stage when you integrate the quality assurance check, and then the person who's doing that check goes back to, oh, but there's additions in here or omissions, or the grammar is not entirely correct, and it doesn't matter so much. It is again about the user experience and if this works or not. So even the way we manage quality sometimes I think it needs to be rethought with this emphasis on the user experience and clarity and so on.
Yeah, and I think we need to tell, to talk more about the different levels of quality and to talk about quality outside the linguistic sphere per se, and to talk about the experience and what the clients want and what the end user want as well. And I think also from the students' point of view, it's really interesting for them. Some of them are really anxious about machine translation and the post-editing task, which they see rather mechanical sometimes. And by offering them the alternative of working in more creative fields, when we talk about marketing, just like you're saying, it's really a new world out there for them, but also very very exciting. But also it adds this extra layer of quality that you need to be very very aware of. So yeah, probably the quality management and quality assurance table will be well attended, like always. But it's interesting if we go a little bit back to what you're saying about what you need and what the students or the new graduates have, because if we are to look at the results, for example, the Ellis survey results. So this is one initiative it's a survey done every year. Probably a lot of you know about it because it's a collaboration between Gala and EMT and ELIA and UATC. When they look at the academia and this gap that might still exist, the results show that actually, in terms of translation technologies, the graduates seem to be doing okay, or they seem to be doing quite a lot better than previously. But what it's missing, it's exactly what you are saying, this ability to plan, to talk about, to manage the quality processes, and also market expectations. So I think in these conversations that we have, it would be interesting to look at solutions, how we bring those elements into our training, and also into our research as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, as you touch on that, I'm thinking as well of how the functions around us, like as I'm working client side, so localization is a small department that is part of a much bigger setup. How often you're actually sought out for market knowledge and insights even into what type of topics might be relevant or no, or what your customers might want. So that's kind of starting to become almost an expectation of also vendors that will be able to chime in with that doesn't make sense in my market, and that's absolutely not covered, I suppose. It's there was a comment earlier on, as we were prepping for this, on how in some university in Nordic countries, Ulrich was mentioning this, they're incorporating localization courses in the business school. So there's something to be said for that as well. And I know there's interest from international business schools as well in getting localization people to speak at their events as well, or sorry, at their lectures, I should say. So that's an interesting mix as well that I think we haven't explored in the past. Just bringing the business world, like there's more and more focus from companies on, like, in order to keep growing, they need to go international. And in the past, like, companies were going big first in their initial market. And then years later, they were going international. Now we're seeing how startups are international from day one, like they're already launching in a couple of markets. So there's and they're very lean teams, they're startups, so and they don't have big, international strategy teams that will be doing this research for them or anything like that. They're looking to localization to provide this info. So an element of, as you say, kind of market insight is very interesting to have as well.
It's interesting that Ulrich mentioned this, and now you're also bringing this into discussion, because I think there is this, search for multidisciplinarity in program design, and there are other, universities that are going through the IT route, putting the translation departments together with IT departments and offering something hybrid like that. And there was an interesting survey about 3 days ago on Slater. They were asking the readers, do you believe that a translation training should also include computing skills? Yeah. So should a trainee also learn Python, for example? And about half of them said yes. 17% said not really, because we're quite busy with solving human linguistic issues. So I think that, the jury is still out on that, but it's there are initiatives to look into, who else can we bring in, so that we can have a larger, more international discussion, if you want.
Yeah, that is so interesting, because like we're seeing as well, linguists who have this, or project managers who have this, they're very precious. And when you have them, they really thrive within the organization, because they can get so much done, and they're so multidisciplinary that they can talk to the developers in their own language. They understand. They can also, like, to internationalize better, you often have to, there's out of persuasion and influence that you need to be able to exert. Developers will not necessarily want to give you the time of day sometimes, not because they are not interested, it's just they have their own goals and priorities, and they're also working under extreme pressure. So even the ability to make them see why this is important, they won't understand it in linguistic terms. So kind of linguists who have this understanding of how programming languages work, and kind of internationalization, really, like internationalization is a big thing that I think software engineering schools and development and so on, they also need to integrate this into their but certainly people who bring that skill, they're very sought out in organizations. But you said it, Alina, like we're trying to find the perfect the perfect person who will be almost like a Leonardo da Vinci, So they'll have they'll have amazing generalist skills, but also be very specialized, not just in one area, but 2 or 3. So it's not easy.
Esther, Alina, I'm sorry. I know we could keep talking, for a full hour or even beyond that, but we should wrap it up here. It's 8:30, and I want to give the attendees an opportunity to ask some questions. So anybody who has a question to either Esther or Alina or both, please post it in the QA section of the chat, and I will read those. So just to wrap up, what I got from your discussion was, Esther, what you're looking for is agile. Agile is everywhere, and I know this is a word, and there entails so much, but I know we try to include that in our curriculums and make people aware. There was waterfall, we're going more rapidly, continuous localization, and so on. Then one part I also took away is engineering. You're looking for people who have at least a basic understanding of localization engineering and shouldn't be shy of that. Then the user experience, understand what is the goal, how can we accommodate for the end user in each market, each language. And then quality management, a big topic as well. So yes, and I would totally encourage to join Katka's roundtable on quality. I'm sure she has a lot of additional thoughts on that. So on floor 1, the center table is dedicated to that. So let's see, was there any question yet? I don't see anything. Let's look in the chat. Maybe somebody put in here. No. General chat. Nothing there yet. Interesting. I myself have a split role. So on one hand, I work for an LSP as a solutions architect. So I get exposed to a lot of new technology. I talk a lot to clients. That's an advantage. And then on the other side, I teach localization engineering at University of Washington, which makes it interesting. So I get a little input from both sides. So I can understand Alina's frustration trying to keep the curriculum up to speed and addressing the current requirements from the industry. But then on the other hand, Esther, how can you provide that information to Alina in an ongoing way? Do you have any ideas? I mean, this is why we created EduinLoc, to create a platform or something for people to communicate.
Yeah, I don't have, I think we need more interactions like this, because, you know, I'm even acknowledging I don't really know what the curriculum looks like at the moment.
The courses are so different. If I compare what Alina, what they're teaching, and me's, for example, and our course, totally different. So we have a couple of questions here. Let me read those out. While the universities improve their programs and train students better, is there a move on the part of the industry to increase hiring salaries to acknowledge the additional skills? That's probably for you, Esther.
Yeah, that's a good one about the, you know, including the, like, I know move. I mean, I work at Indeed, so we are a job platform. There's certainly a move to be more transparent with salaries and so on. This is something that is not just ourselves. I've seen more indication as well that we're trying to be more transparent with that. Whether this is one for us to resolve, I don't think we recognize the value of what we need yet, or how rare it is either. You know, there is an expectation that this comes, and we're surprised when it's not there. And this is not necessarily from localization professionals. It's more from, like, you have all the people working in compensation departments, etc. But even, I suppose that's our job as well, that we haven't done a good enough job of showing, look, this role is not just, this is not just a with an engineer, if we're able to show that, then we can hopefully start bringing the salaries more in consideration. Because I can see that as well, you know, starting salaries, like, it wouldn't be fair. Like, the salaries we're paying are the salaries for a linguist with no experience, and yet what we want is these amazing Leonardos again, you know.
Alina, I don't know if you have something in your curriculum. What I do, or what we did with the students, was just go on Indeed, for example, or Monster, and pick out a couple of job descriptions, applications. And then, of course, you can also look at Glassdoor, for example, if you're looking in a specific position, what are the salary rates there, and discuss that a little bit with the students.
Yeah, I think it's really useful to look at job descriptions in themselves, you know, in addition to the salary, because they tell you quite a great deal about what is expected, and somehow it looks like that expectation list is growing. You know, probably every year, you know, people are adding. I don't know if that's wishful thinking or whether it's actually. You know, whether that Leonardo da Vinci actually exists for all the companies looking for it.
Yeah, I think we need to. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Esther, please.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that even some help mapping out, okay, these skills that we're asking for that weren't in the curricula, sorry. What do they map to? Where would you find those skills being taught? You know, in like. Would they be in a business school, in an engineering school? What is it? Because if we can get that information, then it's easier to start to really give the correct value to that job, which we haven't been able to do because often, like there's so many of us in the industry who come from outside a localization background academically and so on. So again, we don't even understand ourselves how difficult, we're piecing a whole together out of many different skills that are very completely, totally different.
That's a question I get from the students as well. How can I present what I learned here in the industry? How can I get a new job? And sorry, Alina, I just want to address the next question coming from Tabea, which kind of goes into this. She says, I'm interested more in the specialization versus generalization aspect. Is there a danger that people get too much into the master of none area in some roles, or is it the skill set in general moving towards needing to know a lot of different things, but not necessarily specializing in one aspect?
Alina, do you want to answer, or I have my thoughts, but if you'd like to answer.
I think it just depends so much on the company, because we also know very specialized international organizations, for example, who can't find specialists in their very narrow domain, so linguists, and they do revision using non-linguists, or people who don't necessarily know both languages. So I think there are those contexts as well, and then of course you have the situations where you are trying in a program to provide a taster of what it's like to do some project management, what it's like to do some adaptation, some what it's like to do some QAing. So I think it's a hard question, and also I think sometimes it's also the students' responsibilities to, once they've got an idea from the course that they're enrolled in, to go and explore that on their own as well, because there are just too many things that you could be specializing in that you simply don't have the time during an MA or a BA program. Esther?
I would add as well that it depends on the roles again. I mean, for linguists, I can see both things could be very beneficial. Highly specialized, there's a lot of value in that. Generalist as well, there's also a lot of value, and like for me, a good lead linguist needs to be a good generalist, even if then they have one area perhaps where they're stronger. So for lead linguist and so on, I go for the generalist over the specialist. Broadly speaking, there's always cases, but then you have all these other roles, project manager, program manager, solutions architect. So I think it pays to have a very, very good knowledge of quite a few things, because you're going to encounter so many different situations with your clients. Like the same client will require different things depending on the type of content they are working with, the different departments that are, they're different stakeholders and so on. So I think it's maybe I'm speaking because I am more of a generalist. Like I have a bit of a specialization in quality management, but I'm very much a generalist. So maybe I'm being very biased here. But I think there's value in both. That is, you can go like there's no right and wrong approach.
I have one more question specifically for Alina. I'm just picking out a couple, and I encourage everybody whose question was not answered, please join us on the tables. And if you want to talk to me or Katka or anybody, it doesn't have to be technology related, only because we are at a technology table, so you can all talk about anything, of course. So, but the question for Alina is, when would be the best time to introduce localization to students? I mean, in which year of their undergraduate education, and how long should this training be?
Great question, thank you. I think, well, to my knowledge, most localization training happens at MA level, but that doesn't that doesn't mean that it should only happen at MA level, because I really think that we need to grow our base, if you want, of MA students, and later on people who go and work in the industry from the BA. And to be honest, I think you can tailor the content so that you can have a taster even in year one, and then you can grow those students up to, if you have a 4-year program, then you can do more in-depth stuff in the 4th year. But I think you can do things starting from the very beginning, just even if it's to talk about roles and to talk about what kinds of things you can do and what kind of content and how technology can be applied differently at different stages. I hope this answered the question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alina, Esther. Thank you so much. I think this was really, really interesting. You got to the key points that EduinLoc is trying to address. And to follow up, I would encourage everybody, go to the roundtables, join whoever you're interested in having a conversation, please. If there are key points, we have note takers. If they're not available, please take notes on your own and send them to us. And also, any other feedback is absolutely welcome from our EduinLoc team. So thank you again for this discussion, and let's go to the roundtables then.
Thank you.
Thanks.